connections at a time when South Africa really needs them, because we in the ANC don't get anyone who will listen to us, but people still listen to the DA. So maybe you can help us stay in AGOA. Maybe you can help us prevent these incredible tariffs. That's what we were trying to do. And the point is that instead of coming down heavily on us, which made things even worse for South Africa abroad, because we've got excellent connections in Washington, and when the president comes down on Andrew, who's very highly regarded, like a ton of bricks, for going to talk to our connections and friends in Washington, he wasn't claiming to represent the South African government. He wasn't claiming to do that at all. He was speaking from a DA's perspective.
I'm going to come back to Andrew Whitfield.
So, please don't misrepresent things, Tshidi.
I'm not done. I'm going to come back to this.
I'm not done either. Good.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to this. I do feel you say that you will still win Bella, and you speak about how the ANC...
I did not say
you've lost Bella. You'll still win expropriation, you believe. You'll still win NHI, you believe. I'd make an argument that actually you once said to me, and I think it was a 702 interview, you once said to me that the ANC pretty much broke the statement of agreement. What was it?
Statement of intent.
The statement of intent from the very beginning.
Yes, they did.
So I would say that actually your issues were from the very beginning, as per your own words, not mine. So when you say that you had good faith as far as Bella was concerned, including the clearinghouse that was betrayed, I would say that actually you need to go back further. You go back to that very first agreement. You go back to that very, very first moment where you felt you were betrayed. Because then why do you stay there? And I think I asked you that before. I don't think I've ever got a satisfactory answer as to if you're in a partnership with somebody and from the very beginning they show you who they are, which is what you've said in this case, then there'd be no reason to stick around, yet you remain there.
We remain there on our terms.
Oh.
And we've made it very clear that it's on our terms, because we are fighting the Expropriation Act, and I'm sure we will win. We are fighting all these acts. We don't sit there and say we're a doormat. We sit there and say we are going to take you on. And we do. We won the VAT battle. We've won the battle around Nkabani. We may not have had everything, but it would be very churlish if we said you have to do absolutely everything before we'll vote for the budget.
I don't believe you actually won the battle on Nkabani. Nkabani was on her way out anyway.
Well, that's what you can say so easily now. But she was only on her way out because the DA said we won't accept her in. She lied to us. She lied to Parliament.
I think the ANC itself was cut full of Nkabani.
You can invent anything you like from inside the ANC. I know what it's like there.
Yes, you speak to them, so you knew. In fact, let me actually deal with that issue now in Whitfield, because from my understanding, the president was actually going to fire her and Whitfield, and that was communicated to the DA. Part of what I found interesting...
I don't know where you get this stuff from. I know what is communicated to the DA, and that the president was going to fire Nkabani from the beginning was not communicated to the DA.
It was not
Otherwise,
communicated
why
at all.
did we have to take the stand that we did?
Which is where I'm going with this, because the question that arises from that is about who the president is with in the DA discussing these things. So when the DA is told that Whitfield's going to get fired, the reaction and the response there, because the ANC rather, says to me, this is why I would prefer to deal with somebody like Helen. Because in a moment like that, she would talk about the consequences on the DA in managing a moment like that, would come up and as a leader have a different conversation about what's the best way forward, as opposed to having the public spectacle, which is what the rest of us see. And the rest of us go, these GNU partners, it will never work. That it could have been better managed with a different leader at the helm.
Look, I don't think it's got anything to do with the leader. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the DA. I mean, the DA has been trying to get up regular meetings forever. We are supposed to have had, I think, 12 meetings now. I've had 4 meetings with Fikile and Balula. We're supposed to meet every second month with the president. That meeting hasn't happened yet. We'd love to talk more to the ANC if they'd just come to the meetings that are arranged. I did see Fikile and Balula this week, and I was very pleased for that. But we should see each other regularly every month to talk these things through. And if that's not going to happen, and if we can't reach agreement, then the DA is going to fight back, because we have voters to represent, and we won't be the ANC's lapdog. And we won't be there in the GNU simply to bring up the numbers for the ANC.
I think there are a lot of people who feel that that's what's been happening.
Well, so
that
what?
a lot of what's saving... Let me finish. A lot of what's saving the ANC at the moment is the DA. Today, Nkabani was left to a decision by the DA. You say, yes, we don't get everything we want, but we got something that we want. To the public, the DA rescues the ANC once more.
Excuse me. The public rescues the ANC. The voters rescue the ANC. The ANC got nearly 40% of the vote. We got 22% of the vote. Who's rescuing the ANC?
Helen, you could have allowed for appropriations not to go through. You could have allowed for the collapse of government. You could throw us back towards elections.
Yes. Well, you can't go back to elections now, Tshidi, because the Constitution doesn't allow it to go back to elections now. So let me just say one thing very clearly. We sit strategically and say, what is the least bad option? Obviously, we'd like to have a good option, but until we become the majority party, there's not going to be a really good option for South Africa. So the truth is, we look at every situation, we look at the alternative options, and we say, which is the least bad for South Africa? Not for the DA, but for South Africa. This is very uncomfortable looking around you, around the corner at you. Very weird setup here. Okay.
If you came to Joburg. But anyway, yeah?
I'm coming to Joburg. Diaza.
We'll talk about you in Joburg in just a bit, but yeah. Does the DA still hold aspirations of becoming the dominant party? Do you still have the view of wanting to become the national government of the country?
But any political party must obviously have that view.
How do you get there when you recognize that in terms of numbers, many say you've reached a ceiling? What do you do differently?
Everybody always says we've reached a ceiling. They've said that since 1994 when we got 1.7% of the vote. Watch us.
How do you get there?
By working, by getting into government where we can, by showing that we're better in government, by building up a brand of being honest and getting things done. And slowly but surely, we will convince the majority of voters that that is better for them and that good government makes a real difference in their lives. It matters whether they get electricity. It matters whether they get clean water. It matters whether you can drive on the roads. It matters whether the traffic light works. It matters if the law enforcement agencies are working. All of that actually matters. And when people understand how much it matters to the quality of their lives, then I think we will change voting patterns.
It'll be an interesting one to see. I don't know about when South Africa's voting patterns will change. It's been a year.
If they can't, then we can't be a democracy. Then we might as well close shop.
It's been a year since of being in national government. Your assessment of how the DA has fared?
I think we fared very well. There's not an example that I know of anywhere in the world where a smaller party in a governing coalition has advanced at the next election. And we look as if we're going to buck that trend. And it certainly looks as if we may well grow, and the polling is telling us now that we are growing.
How do you assess your ministers and their performance? What metric? How do you go about reviewing their performance? I imagine you started that already and judge your satisfaction levels with their performance.
At the beginning of their terms, we developed a GPS for them, which is a particular mechanism that we use. And that establishes the key things they want to achieve during their terms of office. And we're working on delivery chains so that we know when they have to achieve which milestone in the process. And that's how they get assessed.
And you're happy with all 6 at the moment?
Well, it's not my job to assess them. I'm not the leader of the party. I'm running the party as the party. I'm not running the DA as a government.
I mean, one would also have to, as a party, no, actually as Helen, I'd also like your general thoughts about what you're seeing, including the leader's performance, because a part of me feels that the work in governance has actually neutralized his work in the party and how people understood John's DNA and who he ought to be as a leader. Those two things are sometimes at odds, and I think it's something that many in the political space are confronted by.
When you say many, is it a random sample of 2 journalists?
No, why would it be a random sample of 2 journalists?
Because that's
Helen?
normally how journalists say everybody thinks X.
No, Helen. No.
We do our polling, Tshidi. We do our polling and we know
That's very
happening.
funny. No, many leaders, and it's not just a new phenomenon, many leaders who have to find themselves balancing government and politics the world over years. It's always been a difficult juggling act. Just because Helen might have done it well doesn't mean the next person does it well. Your assessment of how John is faring.
I'm not going to sit here and assess my leader on a public platform. I'm absolutely loyal to him. I work very well with him. I think he's doing a good job, and I know he's working day and night and giving everything he's got. I'm not going to sit
That
here.
That doesn't answer my question. I understand why you feel to answer the question.
Well, the point is, this is...
Has the government work neutralized his effectiveness in the party, with his role in the party?
Not at all. He fulfills his role in the party. He goes to all the by-elections. He is at every major FedEx meeting and other meeting giving the leadership role. No, not at all. He's playing both roles as one does.
Effectively.
Of course.
I was saying to you earlier on that some people say that a different leader would have dealt with some of the conversations and issues with his counterpart, the president, slightly differently.
Well, it'd be nice if we could get a conversation going with the president, wouldn't it?
I imagine.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what the judgment of the kind of leader
Well,
that
you
is
see,
facing might make a determination,
Yeah,
wouldn't
well,
it?
it's the kind of leader that we're facing.
You can make that argument. You can make that argument as well. But that view leads to a few people in the ANC who said to me, in an ideal world, it'll be easier to deal with somebody like a Helen. I spoke to you, I think it must have been earlier this year, where you spoke about how you'll work until the very end. And there were people in the DA who were like, I think Helen is suggesting she's interested in going back as federal leader. A lot of people going back and forth. They got very jittery, Helen. Don't look at me. It's people in your party wondering about what's the next direction for you as far as the leadership is concerned. And I know people in the ANC who wouldn't mind having to deal with you in a leadership position than the current.
Well, the worst thing that can happen to me and my political future is to get praised by the ANC. That's very serious. But, frankly, there's never been a question ever amongst anybody who knows anything in my party that I was going to come back as the leader. Never. I was never going to do that. So anyone who was jittery obviously has got no role to play in the DA because they don't know what's going on in the DA.
But you did say you are still interested in playing a role. And I imagine that it's too crucial a time now to walk away from leadership in whichever form. So when you go to conference next year, what does Helen do?
Well, if I become the DA's mayoral candidate, and I don't know yet, we've had the interviews, but the results of those interviews have not been announced yet, and they will be announced at a later point. If it so happens that I am chosen as the DA's mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, then I will step down as chair of the Federal Council.
How did the idea come about around Joburg to you?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I've been looking for a very long time to get a candidate who I believe can bring Joburg to the DA. And we had several people who were interested. And, when they hear about the job they have to do, with the profile that they have to have, with the battering they have to keep taking by the media, and the difficulty for their families and everything else, and then they see the salary attached to it, they say, no, thank you.
The battering from the media. I take that pot shot. So you've been looking for somebody.
That's mine, my sweetheart. If you want a few pot shots, I've got a few up my sleeve here.
I know that about you. So you were looking around for somebody. You're just going to find anybody that you felt
Well, we've got lots
ideal.
of people inside the caucus, and that's good, but we like competition. So we needed some people from outside the caucus as well. We've got lots of excellent people in that caucus.
I do think so. I actually think that's what I found to be an issue, that you do have excellent people in the Joburg caucus itself. There was a view, Helen, though, that this is also ideal to keep you out of the GNU hairs, that you sometimes complicate the GNU for those who are in that partnership from your party, that it might be easier. If you step down and you focus on Joburg, then it's some way to get rid of you and allow for that relationship to be formed and to thrive.
That's very interesting. On the one hand, you're saying it should rather be me and the GNU, and the other side you're saying...
There are different schools of thought in the ANC. You're dealing with very different people. There's different schools of thought in the DA.
Frankly, I don't care what the ANC thinks. I don't
There's different
give
schools
a
of
damn,
thought in the DA.
But I don't give a damn what the ANC thinks.
Uh-huh.
I don't give a fig about what the ANC thinks about what we're doing in the DA. Let them fix the ANC. We'll fix the DA.
And then the views coming from the DA.
Well, what are the views coming from the DA?
This is what I'm saying to you. There's some in the DA who feel it's easier, because the idea of you not being in the federal council is one that comes from the DA. It's not from the ANC. That's a perspective from your part, where people say it might be easier to find ourselves in the GNU outside of Helen being in that space.
Well, I'm not in that space. I'm not in the GNU space. I run the party.
They feel you interfere.
I never interfere.
So
I give my opinion when I'm asked for the opinion. I never interfere.
So the people who in the DA who feel you undermine the GNU and are a threat to the GNU from your own party, they misunderstand?
I promise you, until you quote me somebody, I will
can't do that. I
know
can't quote my sources.
for sure that you're not you're not giving an accurate picture, to put it mildly, because I know what we do and I know how we work and I know how things function. And
No.
I never interfere in the GNU. I don't have a role to. I have no locus standi to do so. If my opinion is asked, and John and I have a very good working relationship, and he sometimes asks my opinion, I will give my opinion honestly. And if things happen and they're going wrong and we have a meeting at which I am present and I have a speaking turn, then I will express my view. Like everybody does. We're a democratic organization.
So the idea that they feel threatened,
Who feels
you think is a fallacy? That they feel that the GNU faces a threat from you, that's a fallacy coming from me.
There's no such. I mean, it's just bizarre where that comes from.
Strange. All roads lead to the DA for me around that particular topic, but I take that. I take you saying that it's a nothing view. The idea of Joburg for me is also interesting, Helen, because the DA has had a hand in Joburg. Why not approach Tempo Palazzi once more?
She was very free to apply. Anybody can apply. That's how it works in the DA.
But you also go out and seek talent where you think it exists. It was you who went to Herman Mashaba, was it not?
Yes.
It was you who approached Mampela Rampela, was it not?
Yes.
So where you think that there is talent, having seen what you've done in Joburg, was she not worth pursuing?
She's inside our system. She's a member. Everybody knows that applications are open. Everybody knows they can apply. And everybody's welcome to apply.
The DA has had a hand in Joburg. The DA has had a hand in Tshwane. The DA has had a hand in Ekurhuleni. The DA speaks about a DA difference. Mm-hmm. Those cities, I don't think necessarily felt the DA difference that you guys speak about when you speak of the Western Cape. What would be so different should your candidature be successful?
Well, voters must decide if they want it to be different or not. And if voters split the vote amongst all kinds of tiny parties, then we will end up with an 8 or 9 party coalition and it will fail. So voters have to decide if they're serious about their city and if they want their city to come right again. And if they do want that, then there's a clear option.
You don't have an argument around Tshwane, for instance. I still say that I know you're putting it in the voters' hands, but I want to speak about the impact, or at least the experience, rather, on the DA's part of experiencing what the difference and the difficulties were in trying to turn Tshwane around. And why is it that months after you left Tshwane, people will make an argument that the DA experience that is spoken about wasn't felt? The same thing could have been made to a degree about Joburg. I live in Ekurhuleni. I made that argument about Ekurhuleni.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, if it takes 30 years to break a city completely, it's not going to take 6 months to fix it. And people need to understand that broken systems are very, very difficult to repair. It's much easier to break a city down than to build it up. Now, Cape Town, everyone sees the difference in Cape Town. It's because it's a difference of the DA being in power for 20 years. And of course that makes a massive difference because you go a little step forward every day, and after 20 years, the difference is very visible. If you've gone a little bit backwards every day for 3 decades, the place is going to look like Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni and some parts of Tshwane. And it's going to take at least 2 terms to get to the point of fixing it.